In a way.
In a way.
Oh, we're live shit.
Yeah, you're in bed.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, I just don't give a fuck about this
and
podcast. You know, like I just roll out of bed and rock up to do it. No, I'm having PC issues. I arrived late last night because I'm trying to save my Schengen days. So I entered the EU on the day of the rehearsal, and I just saw a blue screen on my PC when I got into the room. Tried to troubleshoot a little bit this morning. Looks like an SSD issue. Got new SSDs at rehearsals, 2 of them. Didn't help the problem. Even Chev himself could not help. Chev the Almighty was like, bro, your PC is just fucked. Ask them to give you a new PC. So I did try to conjure up a setup in the meanwhile so we can pull this off and hope it works.
That's why the laptop is always the last bastion of hope, right? you have it there just in case. That's the thing. I don't love traveling with my laptop because it's big and it's heavy, and then I need to take a whole extra bag and shit, and then all these fucking microphones and everything. But it has to be done. It has to be done. And there's no other way around it. Gentlemen, I haven't seen you in a while.
It's been a minute, but you've still been busy. You've remained on the road.
Yeah, it was quite a stint, really. So I think it goes back to, I think it, like, I could include the award show, right? Award show back to Australia, back to Katowice home for like 48 hours to Cluj home for another 48 hours, then to EPL, from EPL directly to Copenhagen for the group stage, from the group stage to Lisbon to London to record some content stuff, which I was just telling you guys before we kicked off was quite the production. I'm going to be very interested to see how that turns out. And I hope it's good, and I hope people at home enjoy it. And then that means we can do more of what we did in the future for next year or whatever, because it was actually surprisingly a lot of fun. It was, me and Alex had this like dread. We were like, oh no, we have to go and do this thing and we have to act. And we're already at the end of this long run.
We're at the edge.
We don't have the energy. Yeah. We don't have the end, but we got there and it was like, oh shit, like this was like a real deal thing, and it was actually lots of fun. Alex killed it. We were there for 3 days, flew back to Malta on Thursday, did HLTV confirmed yesterday, where my brain just wasn't working. Like words weren't coming out. Like I was like, nothing was flowing. I was like, oh, Jesus, I'm not doing justice to this right now. So I apologize to any HLTV confirmed listeners for having to put up with my broken brain yesterday. But today I feel a bit more glued in.
And we also invite a little bit more of a broken brain syndrome on this kind of a show, you know?
That's true.
We do enjoy it.
And listen, Chad, that's, you can always take a couple of episodes off here when you need to. No one's going to force you to do things against your will on this podcast, buddy.
Well, I see you guys got Duncan in. That's quite a barn burner of a guest.
Well, we had to get a headline, we had to get someone spicy.
No one can fill your shoes, Chad, but, a big name like that, add a little bit of spice.
Well, he's provocative, right? He
gets the people going.
But you know how he is in these kinds of podcasts when you're like talking about Counter-Strike, is he's way more reasonable. He's not as going crazy like with the Twitter take. He's willing to have a conversation, willing to entertain disagreement. He was fun. He was great.
Yeah, no, I think having Duncan on, maybe we get him on again. We see what we can get going in the future. First of all, we got to work out when we could do the next episode after this, because I'm home until Monday night, where then I fly to Cologne, I sleep. Then the next day, I get the train to Frankfurt to get on a plane to go to Perth, where then I sleep for one night. Rush arrives the next day. I pick Rush up. Then we go on a road trip. I'm going to take him down to Esperance. And then we get back to Perth, get on a plane, fly to Melbourne, and then do Melbourne. And then, after Melbourne, I get 3 weeks in Malta.
Oh, those 3 weeks are going to be fucking gold. Mm-hmm. Weather's going to be nice. The sun is going to be out. The water's going to be warm.
Jason, we need to speak post-Dallas. Not right now, but we're running out of time.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that ominous. It felt like that.
That felt like I was like, is he breaking up with me right now? That was how the conversation felt.
No, and you're still thick beard.
Yeah, I'm still thick bearded. I grew it back after Katowice, after the shaming.
It actually looks kind of sick, Chad. I'm not gonna lie.
I like it. I liked it before.
Well, we're gonna see how it goes. This is usually the time. This is usually the length where I wake up one day and I'm just like, fuck it all, and just go nuts. I'm at that point.
I was watching some of the videos with the Hall of Fame stuff, and your beard is that density there.
Yeah. It was about that same measure.
Well, he wanted to look wise for that one, Beard always helps with that.
And
Get you some spectacles.
when you're interviewing Forrest, you got to match the beard power on the other side of the table. You know, you have to be able to push back against that.
Look, Chad, I
Yeah?
did have one question
Oh dear.
as well, because you were talking about the energy and everything. Like, you know, was there any sort of pent up frustration you were feeling towards me? Because in that skit we did, you know, you weren't lacking energy there when you had to pin me against the fucking wall, mate.
Holy shit! I had to go in the Wayback Time Machine just then to think of that one.
Yeah, that was like 6
that
months ago in your brain.
Shitter
for you.
Island. But that was fun. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Well, as you guys know, my favorite emotion, no, not my favorite, my best emotion is anger.
Your easiest emotion to tap into is definitely anger. Yeah.
I had years of looking at it front on. So when we were doing that one, and I think that was, I don't know what the initial ending was meant to be, because Frank had that planned, and then the ending wasn't obviously the Donna thing, and then Donna worked the last week, and then he repurposed it. So that one worked out pretty good. I don't know if I'm in for an Oscar against Trace's acting, but we'll have to see how the year shapes up, really.
Yeah, a few more skits will get thrown into the mix, so the award show is going to be down to the wire.
Well, we should run we should come up with, because obviously HLTV's awards like all serious and stuff, but we could actually I know Richard used to do like an awards, right? But it was always like
The end of the year, like
but it was like the worst stuff.
Yeah. It was like I forget what he actually called it, but he did like, what were the topics? It was like worst team, worst roster change, and then he had like worst fans, worst event of the year. Yeah, it's like basically like the Razzies of fucking Counter-Strike awards.
Maybe we could find something in between, you know, maybe not best, maybe not worst, but like just things that are, I don't know,
mediocre.
Best crowd moment.
We could do like the mediocre award show. This was just average. It was just solidly average, and it gets a gold medal.
You're talking about my Counter-Strike career right there.
Yeah.
Boys, it's good to be back.
I know.
Yes,
It's really nice, and it's nice to be back in a high news time period as well. Like shit's been popping off. It was so low key for a while, and I feel like the last like 3 days was just everything coming at once.
The amount of news that happened within the last, what it would be, like 24 hours, right, is kind of wild. Because we're doing HLTV Confirm yesterday, and it was just like wrapping up of Lisbon, which is a little bit late, but it's because of all the travel stuff I spoke about. And then, you know, you're looking at Bucharest, which you guys are both at right now to be working starting tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, okay, yeah, well, we're midway through the season. All this stuff's unfolded. There was already like a decent amount to be discussed at that point, right? Like there was that small update with Banana on Inferno changing. You guys are going to get to see that in play, right?
Yes, that's an action tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
We have a lot of new stuff tomorrow.
A lot of... Oh?
Because we have the new Liquid roster as well.
I thought you were...
No. Nothing.
I thought it was about m0nesy. I was like, is this happening already?
New Liquid roster, new jersey for the Turkish boys.
Yep.
We got everything coming in tomorrow.
Yeah, no, it should be nice. Like, and obviously you're missing Vitality, missing Spirit, missing Mouse. But the way that Striker framed it was the sense that it's a chance for someone else to win a trophy, right? Because all the teams that have won trophies in 2025 at Tier 1 events so far, none of those names are there. So it's that opportunity. But with this news that's gone down, now it's like probably G2's last event with m0nesy, or potentially, right? The Aurora thing as well, that comes with a different measure to it, because have you guys seen the tweets coming out from some of the players?
Yeah. Yep.
They feel like remorse-laden tweets. It's like, we're sorry that we had to leave, but we needed to go and get more support, right? Because I was looking into it. Apparently, all of the betting sponsors in Turkey are government-owned or government-backed, and you can't have betting sponsors outside of that, or maybe they're a little bit more murky. I don't want to say like matter-of-factly, because I'll be wrong, but...
Yeah, and I mean, I'll go down that same road where I've just heard this secondhand, but I know like kind of the thing that we heard was that there was just like a mainstream journalist that like wrote like a big article about the gambling sponsors, and Turkey just doesn't allow gambling affiliations with their competitive teams.
Have we lost Yanko?
It's very possible that we might have lost Yanko.
What do we do?
No, I'm here. Just keep going. I just need to do something on the PC so they can help me fix it. And I turned off the camera for a sec so I can move around the room. Be right back.
Oh, well, we shouldn't get into that then if he's doing that, because we need Yanko as part of that conversation, Jason. So shall we go through some smaller news bits that Yanko probably doesn't care about anyway?
Let's pivot to some tiny ones.
I can hear you guys. You're all good.
Wait, so you want us to talk about it or not? I don't understand. What are we doing, Yanko? Should we wait? Like, we can keep talking.
We can talk
Let's
about
No,
the
keep going. This is just I just need to take one photo. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Okay.
all right, yeah.
Well, obviously, Jason, some of the biggest news of the day is niko's joining a confirmed edition of OG.
Huge. That's a massive pickup for niko. One of those oppers that struggles with riflers coming into the team. Good for him. good for him. Good for them. Again, OG. We still. I mean. We haven't really had to talk about OG a whole lot recently because they've been stuck down there for quite some time, and they haven't even had like, what was their old strategy of roster changes? They would pick up like the big name players who had just been like lost from their
guys,
like the last like year of someone's career. And it feels like they've gone a new direction now, a new philosophy with it, but we just haven't heard from them. But so cool. Let's see what niko does.
And they'll be in the MRQ, so that's cool, right? That's a good opportunity for them there. And I like I like this Crizzen kid. Buzz, I think, had some moments. He obviously got hard done by over there at Astralis. So and he was really early on in his career. He's back. Nice. He's back. Okay. But now we don't need to talk about OG anymore.
Yeah. I think back to the
They're always like the Henry G line about Zeus. He finally does something.
Yeah.
So
where do we want to start? Aurora? Do we want to go with?
I mean, we might as well just continue the Aurora idea since we're already on that. I mean, the only thing I was finishing up was just like the way we heard about it was just like gambling sponsors where we're just like we're told 100% the government just doesn't allow them to like the Turkish entity, which is why they had to kind of fire sale it so quick, because it was like, okay, well, now we've lost all the funding and all the money. But yeah, I have to imagine there's a contingent of Turkish fans that probably feel like hard done by, or like this decision was for money and going away from the Turkish organization. I have to imagine there's a contingent of Turkish fans that don't understand the kind of situation that they were put in. So I think that's where those like tweets come out that seem almost like apologetic or remorseful, is them the same way like Brazilian fans or like Brazilians almost have to endear themselves to a really aggressive fan base. I bet the Turkish players have to do that very similar thing as well.
Well, look, again, I don't want to act like this is gospel because I'm using, and I know people hate AI at the moment, but we're not getting into that conversation on this fucking show. But I use AI just as instead of a search engine right now. It says private gambling companies, including online betting sites, are illegal in Turkey, and the government activity blocks access to unlicensed foreign gambling websites. Right, so they wouldn't have been able to get a gambling sponsor, which I understand a lot of people have problems with, especially now that stuff like this Jacob thing has come to light. Maybe we can talk about that later in the episode. But in terms of esports or Counter-Strike and types of sponsors that you'd have, a gambling one is a main one for a lot of top organizations. And they have a massive fan base, of course, but if you're unable to get any sponsors, right, these guys are out there representing their country, and that's the great thing about the brand of Eternal Fire. It was the representation of Turkey out there in the Counter-Strike world, and people were getting behind it in a similar fashion as the Brazilians. And I guess that's why some of these messages that are coming up from Woxic or Maj feel a little bit of a remorse in it, because they probably feel like there are people who are going to feel betrayed by this, but that's not the case, right? They're out there. Like, I understand what they're trying to do, right?
But
you should be getting paid well.
But also, it's confusing to me too, because this should all just be public, right? Like, why don't they just explain it? Why don't they just?
I think Woxic kind of did. Let me see if I can find his message.
Not even the players necessarily, but like, why doesn't the org just say it? I mean, they kind of allude to it in the tweet, but just straight up, you could come out and say, "Hey, we're not allowed to have gambling sponsors due to the Turkish government, so we have to sell the team because we can no longer afford to pay them salaries."
Maybe there's something political there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to speculate in this sort of a situation, but who knows if something was already done, and now just light was shown on it in a way where they maybe were about to get caught red-handed doing something they shouldn't have, and that's why this happened so quickly, right? Again, I don't want to necessarily speculate, but it is one of the, sort of truths that a lot of these, or a lot of just people in the space, different stakeholders, are sort of dependent on being sponsored by gambling companies of different kinds, or betting casinos, or skin casinos, or skin marketplaces, whatever it is, to be able to sort of be up and running in a way. And I think, on the other side of things, it's also like Eternal Fire is now a top 5 team in the world, right? Yeah. Like, they can command a higher salary, right, than they could have a year ago, right? So even if we ignore the sort of sponsorships and some of those things, like if you can get paid, let's say, a 4 or 5 times or whatever, 3, 4 times higher salary elsewhere, I mean, you couldn't blame the players. That could be reason enough in its own right to sort of go somewhere else, and the org being willing to facilitate the move in a way, or maybe their hand forced a little bit. I'm sure they didn't walk away for free, right? So it sort of smells like making the best out of a bad situation for everyone involved. Although I don't know what's going to happen with Eternal Fire just as an organization now. Like, is this going to cause them to just straight up fold, or are they going to be able to keep these other teams up and running because they're not as expensive to maintain as a Counter-Strike squad? I guess we'll have to see. And I don't really care.
I think it's that, or you do the obvious strategy. I think for a team that's probably put in a weird situation overnight that you're not prepared for is you gravitate towards the EWC games, where you're gonna get some of that partnership money to help fund some of your investment in other games. That's where I imagine Eternal Fire would go.
Well, they have teams in Valorant, League of Legends, PUBG, and Brawl Stars, as according to their website. I'm not certain how up to date all of that is, and I don't even know what type of leagues that these teams are playing in, so I can't really speak to that. But like the thing that is probably the most gutting about this is the same way as the Mongols, or the same way as like Brazilian teams in the past. They are essentially the representation of their country to the rest of the world. There's a lot of national pride there. It's a very vocal fan base. They love their team, and this is a shock move. One that, you know, we can, like we've already said, we can understand from the players and team's perspective of why they would be making this choice. So it's just shocking that it came from nowhere and it wasn't leaked. I think that's crazy because I heard nothing about this. It just kind of popped off today. I was walking outside. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, that's how I found out. Woke up jet lagged and saw the headline. I was like, okay, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know. This feels to me like this is like a bigger deal because of how shocking and surprising it is. Like, to me, like I'm obviously not Turkish, but I feel like there shouldn't be some like loss of national pride in this team. Like, the fans have to just cheer for a new team name essentially, but we're still going to call them the Turkish team. We're still going to call them the Turkish representatives in professional Counter-Strike. Like, it is still a Turkish team. Unfortunately, you're no longer with the Turkish org that started in-house and in-region and built itself up, but you're still the Turkish team at the end of the day.
It's a Turkish roster, right? But it's not. I guess it's semantics at this point. Yeah. But I can get it how you lose a little bit of that pride, right? I mean, it's a Turkish lineup for a Turkish organization. You know, you're representing Turkey on all levels. I don't think they're going to lose that many fans because they're playing for a different organization, right? Like, in theory, there should be understanding for their cause. And I thought you were going to say, when you said it's more the shock factor, it's like, I think that's more why people care than, you know, just because no one ever heard a hint of it and it just came sort of overnight. Is like, who really cares which sort of what's the team name that they're playing under? You know, you follow the roster, you follow the players, and whatever the organization is, you know, it doesn't really matter all that much to me.
I was just having a look. So Aurora, people probably are familiar with some of the rosters that they put together over the last couple of years, right? But it's your Russian second strings, right? Like your Kenzis, your NaVis, that type of stuff. They have a Dota 2 team, which is looking primarily Russian. They have an Apex Legends team. They have mobile, what is MLBB? Something, Mobile League Bang Bang? Mobile.
Yeah, something like that.
Whatever.
That's an EWC game.
Bang Bang.
That's an EWC game.
And Warcraft 3 with a Russian player. The MLBB, where are these? Are these Philippines? I think that's the Filipino flag. If I get it wrong, I apologize.
I'll tell you what, it'll be a cool thing to watch an organization like Aurora to try and figure out how they want to navigate in for a Turkish fan base. That's kind of an interesting idea.
Well, they put out a statement in Turkish.
Yeah.
So you would want to try and get the power of that fan base on side.
As soon as possible. You want to get all those fans converted as quickly as possible.
Who else in Counter-Strike is even a Turkish representation, right? Like, it was Sangal, but then those guys went over to Heroic, right? Yeah. So, like, that's changed as well. So, in that sense, I think they should be able to harness the power of it. You're going to have some really, like, big's the wrong word. You're going to have some hardcore fans who are going to feel like Giga betrayed. Someone just, like, linked me a tweet or replied in a tweet chain that I'm in of a guy putting his Eternal Fire jersey in the toilet and it looks like he's pissing on it.
What the fuck, dude?
So, right, that's what I can see. Let me see if I can link that.
That's maybe that's the edge of too far.
I think that's just people like sort of copying what they do in sports when a player changes a team or something, right? And then they like burn his jerseys and do all this shit. It's like, bro, it's not that big of a deal.
Doesn't have to be like this.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be like this.
You're overdoing it. You're exaggerating.
Yeah, and I think so. Obviously, Aurora have the 1xBet backing, right? That's one of the main sponsors over there, I believe. Partners, yeah, 1xBet. Yeah. Main partner, 1xBet. Aurora is proud to represent the team's title partner, 1xBet. So yeah, in terms of having the cash flow, there's going to be a lot more money for them. But yeah, that's it. Different jersey, more salary.
I also wonder
this is
if
an insane video.
Yeah,
it's an insane video.
Yeah, right.
You'll have to add it in post, Jason.
I don't think I can add somebody pissing on a jersey.
Well, you can't see the dick.
You can't see the dick, but you see a nice stream of fucking Turkish pee.
Yeah, they need to drink with some more water. I think
they do.
I don't know. It doesn't need to be perfectly clear, but I reckon that's quite yellow.
It's got 1.2K likes.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at.
I wonder. I guess this shouldn't be the reason why they skipped Melbourne.
No, I think well, I don't know why. I think it's a smart move for them to pull out of Melbourne.
Sure.
Obviously, it's the travel right now, and I didn't get to the bottom of the Zentares stuff, but after they were eliminated from Lisbon, Zentares put out a tweet, saying that he had
stomach issues?
Back issues. Maybe
a whole lot of issues,
taking a lot of
man.
pills and whatnot. And then there was a picture of him in hospital as well. So I don't know exactly what's the issue there. Hopefully he is doing better. But in terms of their crazy schedule, if I was going to skip one event, it would be the one that is 24 hours on the other side of the globe. And I'm saying that as an Australian who's going to have so much fun at that event. So, yeah, I get it. But I don't think it could be anything related to this Aurora thing. Like 1xBet sponsor IM, right?
Yeah.
So
no, I just don't know if it's like. But then they would have had to change because the invite, but it should be to the players, not the org. Whatever.
To the core these days, right? Because of the fucking VRS.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they also, Eternal Fire did put a tweet out that, Zentares is completely fine, healthy to attend Bucharest. So those issues aren't lingering. But I mean, the schedule was ruling for them. We don't need to go over it again. I mean, it's very well documented that they were going to play every single tournament they could have, which just in its own right, even if they were all in Europe, is kind of whack.
Yeah, no, fair. All right. Well, the other big one that came out, and this one was from Nell, this was yesterday, was the news that the news itself is not surprising. The timing is. It's about m0nesy to join Falcons. I don't think anybody should be surprised that he is joining Falcons. It's more about the fact that we didn't even make it to the end of the season. I thought that they would have been able to get him to play, this is G2, up until the major, and then going into the next season, it would have changed then. The fact that this is happening earlier than that shows, I guess, maybe a few things. One, that m0nesy is probably not happy with G2's performances so far. The other, Falcons probably not too happy with their performances so far, which have actually been probably on par with what you'd expect for the roster at the moment. And the willingness for a Saudi Arabian-backed team to spend money. So it's rumored to be, a several $1 million deal? That's what it says in the article?
It says another record setting for the Counter-Strike scene. It doesn't really give a value number to it.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, you have to imagine it's going to be absolutely massive.
But it says to be a multi-million-dollar deal and the biggest transfer in Counter-Strike history.
That makes sense. I mean, it's one of those situations where for Falcons, they're showing their commitment to building a contender lineup, right? And sort of the promise in a way that they made to Niko when he joined the team. Like, this is them coming true on that promise. And, people talk about, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but with their backing and whatnot, they did win the World Cup, guys. That's over $7 million in prize money that they got, right? That
Yeah.
you get to invest in your divisions if you want to, and most of their divisions are doing fine. I think. I don't think
Dota's good.
they don't need sizable upgrades, so that enables them majority of that money that they can just invest straight into their Counter-Strike division, right? So when you look at it that way, it's not necessarily new money coming in to finance these transfers. It's actually stuff that they made from EWC. But let's even in the case that doesn't matter all too much. I mean, it's just, I think, even if if I'm objective for a second, for me it feels like for the scene it's just great to have niko and m0nesy back together. In a way.
Yeah,
like
that was a nice bromance.
They had a
real
nice bromance going in G2, right? I think a lot of just fans, not even necessarily fans of G2 or Falcons, whatever, were a little bit sad that those two didn't keep on playing together. So you have that storyline sort of going back for you. I don't think there's any point in discussing, the individual qualities of m0nesy and what he is going to bring to this Falcons lineup. It's just one of a kind player. I think, if anything, for me, it's more about G2 and sort of how this reflects on them. I saw Swanny's tweet, man, just like while we were at rehearsals, and it was the photo of them lifting the Cologne trophy, and that was not even 2 years ago. Only one person from that squad, coach included, is still on G2, and that's Hunter. No niko, no m0nesy, no JKS, no Hooksy, no Swanny, obviously. And it's like, I mean, that team was really, really good. I mean, you win Katowice and Cologne in 1 year, and then sure, you had the fuckery with like, is niko going to leave? Is he not going to leave? Then they remove JKS for whatever reason, and then everything goes downhill from there. But it's just crazy to me that you lose sort of the best rifler we've had, in Counter-Strike, really, and you lose the, probably best topper at the moment, or at least one of the young stars of the game. You have them both on your roster, and they both are out of the team in a matter of a couple of months. And sure, like, you got compensated for them. That's great, but you can't replace, as I think G2 has figured it out, you just can't replace a player like niko. You can't replace a player like m0nesy. There's no one out there that you'll be like, okay, now we have all this money, let's pay for this guy. No, like, there's no one like that out there. And for an organization that sort of is aspiring to lift trophies, every tournament they attend, that's just a very bad light that they put on themselves in a way.
These are franchise shattering losses to lose the, like, like I just think it's like almost like sad funny thinking back to like the statement when like when the negotiation with niko, and they were just like, yeah, we don't mind losing niko, and like you fast forward 6 months and it's like, well, I bet if we told you that niko was the key to having m0nesy on your team, you'd mind losing him, because now you've lost both, and I don't know how you rebuild from this. Like we talk a lot about like the potential and how good some of the players have looked, but you lose niko and then you lose m0nesy. That's so much firepower. That's so much talent just leaving your team that is going to make everyone's job harder now. Like Mobs is going to have more pressure on him. Heavy God's going to have more. Yeah, like it's just going to get worse when you don't have someone like m0nesy who can just bail you out, or someone like niko who can take control and bail you out of a situation. So this is, I think G2 is going to enter a pretty rough stretch.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to bail themselves out of this. Maybe they have to try and do what Aurora just did, the next kind of national team that's on the rise that they can take. Remember, like with the French back in the day, and then when things start to simmer out with that, start plugging and playing where you can. But I think like there's a few things to get into here. So one of them, I guess, is the chain reaction of events, because if we go way back with what you were just talking about there, Yanko, in terms of the roster that was together that won Cologne, the whole thing with JKS getting benched, the way that story seems to have aged, at least from the information that's come my way, or different tidbits we've gotten over the years, and it'd be great to get some clarification from the people in the team at the time, because now it's ancient history. But it felt like that was when niko was first going to go to Falcons, right? Like that back then was when niko was meant to be going to Falcons the first time round, and then that fell through. but they thought niko was going. So then they weren't just going to find a player to replenish niko. They were going to make more changes within the team. And JKS was going to be one of those names removed, and they were going to bring in a couple of extra players, right, around Hunter, around m0nesy, around Hooksy, and then build from there. Then that didn't happen. niko stayed, but they had already worked on getting rid of JKS, and then they needed to replace JKS with somebody, and then, well, with the short time frame and players that are available, they just ended up on Nexa, which didn't work out perfectly.
Didn't do anything. Yeah.
That's what happened. But that was like the first thing that was the first time niko was being courted by Falcons. It didn't land, and then it was a kind of a chain reaction from there. The thing that I think is interesting is obviously the CEO saying, "Oh yeah, we could have kept him if we wanted to." I don't think you could have kept him if you wanted to, because if you were going to match the output of money that Falcons are likely paying niko, that's a lot of money. Where is that money coming from?
Well, there's one more thing that also was announced a couple of days ago is niko's partnership with Razer. And that's a personal partnership, a personal sponsorship that he has with Razer, which, you can imagine a player of niko's stature, that's not going to be, that's going to be a significant chunk of change. And you don't have that if you're on G2. Like G2 has your rights.
We're talking like 6 figures, we reckon?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think definitely like 6 figures. So yeah, I mean, you have that element to it as well. I think it's funny, the top Reddit comment in the thread, like they went from we could have kept niko if we wanted to we can't keep m0nesy even if we want to, right? I mean, and I think that statement also, of course, is the CEO of the org, right? That's a guy who's not hands-on with the Counter-Strike division, isn't as, but you need to be careful about, what you say, especially on that level, right? Like it just lets off it sends a bad message, man. It's like, what are you doing? Why would you ever say something like that?
How about this one then, Yanko? While we're on that, the same gentleman tweeted this morning, 8:37 a.m. What a lovely day not to be on socials. Need to wait for some deadlines to talk, but I'll come back to you next week with our side of the story and our plans for the future.
Great, man. I can't wait to hear that story. Like... what?
I'm excited for it personally.
Yeah, I mean, or the deadlines, like talk in terms of, I don't know if.
What is the weekend, Yanko? We know that esports doesn't happen on the weekend.
Oh yeah, so. Of course. I don't know if he's referencing like, oh yeah, we have players lined up that we're going to sign. I don't know. We talked about these guys, this guys a year ago, right? And we were saying like G2 needs to do whatever they can. Sort of just m0nesy and niko, because you can build your Counter-Strike division around them for the next 5 years, right? niko eventually moves into the IGL spot. You have your main operator. That's it. Those are the 2 of the toughest sort of positions to find and roles to fill, and 2 of the most important positions on your squad, right? And I think probably G2 from an organizational standpoint a little bit is, that's like pretty damn expensive, and all that stuff. But it's... what is your strategy? What's your end goal? Like, are you trying to really be a contender, or, is winning all that matters, or does it matter under, a certain budget or certain circumstance?
It has to be under a certain budget.
Yeah,
right?
Because you also look at vitality, right? Look at just what that one extra addition to an already strong roster made it into. Like, they're 15 match win streak, 3 tournaments in a row is just crazy.
But I think like at the same time with the niko thing with Falcons back the initial time, money was something that I heard was not a problem but definitely a factor, and then also there's other teams in the current day who are also some of the bigger organizations that I'm hearing having to talk to their players about maybe cutting their salaries and whatnot. So, money is clearly an issue, and that's the way of the world. So I don't know. I look at this G2 scenario, and G2 as an org at the moment, the best way to summarize it, they're fucked, right? Because they were already kind of fucked. The CS that they played in that arena game was some of the most dog shit Counter-Strike I have had the displeasure of casting in recent history. Like that was shit. Like not taken away from m0nesy. m0nesy looked great, right? m0nesy playing some high level Counter-Strike, but G2 looked like a bunch of fucking donkeys running around there, mate. Like I don't know what the fuck they were doing. They didn't look connected at any point. It was just you're dead, no trade. You're dead, no trade. Nothing connected. Just shit.
I might be reading too much into this, but I also don't think so in a way. I remember like hearing a Taz interview from that event where he was talking about how like, you know, Hunter started stepping up in terms of calling. He said m0nesy starting to get way more vocal within the team, and he's like, one person I really want to work on being like more vocal within the team is Snacks. And I was like, what?
But we can't talk about this mystery, bro. Like, don't even give it humor, Jason. It's not worth it.
But he said it. It's not just it's like, ugh.
Yeah, look, but this goes back to my framing of G2, right? And this framing is not meant to be an attack on any individuals. This is just how I looked at the lay of the land when niko and m0nesy were there. Snacks was like he was a wrangler, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he had a bunch of like
he was a game manager. He wasn't like an IGL.
Yeah, like just pulling all the pieces
Oh, yeah,
together, right? Like niko's got an idea, m0nesy's got an idea, Hunter knows how to plug into this, m0nesy will slot in, right? He's just pulling it all together.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to call like these really intricate game plans because you got some of the best Counter-Strike players in the world, right? Let them play, give them their space, have some structures, understand what the decision tree looks like, what do we do as the basics, what do our round openers look like, and then just pull it all together. He doesn't need to be like a mastermind in-game leader, whereas now that's required of him because the team doesn't have niko, who was like the engine of the team, right? Not only was he the fucking driving force, he was also, you know, had one hand on the steering wheel. And that's not to say, you know, he was taking all the calls and but you know, he was definitely having a big say on the way the team should operate. And I think that's fine.
It's just, no, it is fine. It's just, I think if you look at the track record, like how we kind of just talked about, you had that conversation about if you're going to have niko and m0nesy on the same team, two of the biggest star players we have in Counter-Strike, it's going to be expensive. And it's like, well, yeah, but you knew that and you put yourself on your path to that when you paid $600,000 to get him away from NaVi in 2019 or whenever the fuck it was.
True.
Right?
Yeah,
like you paid the money to bring this guy in and develop him to a point where you could lift trophies. And of course that's going to be expensive. But then what you did was break up the roster that was having some success with dropping JKS, with dropping HooXi. You say, now we don't want a tactical IGL. We want to go in a place to make our star players happy. We're going to go for an IGL who just kind of has to manage the game and gives the guys a lot of freedom. And now you're in a situation where you've now lost niko because you let him go because you didn't think he was worth the money. And now you're going to lose m0nesy because someone's coming in to pay him more money, and m0nesy's lost his buddy that was making his life easier. And now you need to go back to that strategic IGL who you had just cut to make these two players happy. So it feels like G2 has just been in a loop of like making going down all the wrong paths.
I don't think they cut HooXi because he was like a strategic IGL.
Right.
I think they cut HooXi because HooXi was so negative and down on himself that like he
couldn't be effective.
Right? Like and once you're so far in that mental rabbit hole and nobody can pull you out of it, like you're broken goods at that point. Like you can come back. Like HooXi can still come back to be an in-game leader for sure. I have no doubt about that. But like his self-belief from like talking with Justin and stuff was always so low. Like he was always so neg on himself. And Justin would say, oh yeah, but we'd say it's not, you're doing a good job, man. Like, and they just couldn't pull him out of it as a team.
I remember talking to him at the Istanbul airport. We had
he was so negative, huh?
Yeah, he was toast. He was so hard on himself.
It's like I was like, HooXi, you just won Cologne. Like, what are you talking about, bro? So,
Never dog shit, man. Like I don't know what I'm doing.
Dude, you fucking
but I think that's the issue what Jason was talking about. That seems to the G2 was always like one move away from becoming what Vitality is, right? And that could have been even something in the, I don't know, like the roster with JKS obviously was the most successful one that they've had when it comes to winning big trophies, right? And it all started going downhill from there. It was worse before, right? When you had your m0nesys, your Jaxes on the team, like,
and they were still getting to major finals.
Twilight of Kenny S's career, right? Like Nexa was better at the time in his first stint than in his second stint, obviously. But then even on top of that, like you have this roster that won these two tournaments, and then you bring in, I mean, a rookie coach. Taz has a wealth of experience as an IGL, right, and as a player in Tier 1 scene. But then it was that, and the first 6 months were pretty rough, man. Like there were some big mistakes going on there that maybe have cost them some important games. And that stuff just also, it's a lot of little things, right, that have slowly added up and built up over a longer period of time that just caused the sort of cracks. And even if you look at niko, I think it's like every 4 years he changes the team. Sort of like 3.5, 4 years. It was outside of the m0nesy to FaZe. That happened a little bit faster, I think. But he was in FaZe.
He needed to get the fuck out of m0nesy at that point.
Yeah.
he needed to get the fuck out.
He was in FaZe for almost 4 years, right? And then he was in G2 for 4 years, really, right? And
yeah.
I think most of it comes from just not being able to lift as many big trophies. Obviously, the major still lose them, but the first time he wins Cato and Cologne is with G2 in 2023. So, yeah, I think for them it's going to be really tough. It's going to be different. And now it's like has to take. I think maybe they're thinking, they're looking at m0nesy, for example, and m0nesy. Their players that the running costs are way lower than your Vitality, than your FaZe and everything else, and they're the second best team in the world now. And maybe they're looking at it and thinking that's enough. If we get a little bit lucky or something, maybe you can win some of the big tournaments even with that sort of a lineup. But that's really hard to fucking do, man.
Yeah.
To have the sort of a structure and the culture that they have, I think. Being able to play on such a high level with Xyp9x behind them, not Cyclone, just speaks to how strong their system is and their structure and the culture. I don't want to say system because it implies that a lot of it is just in-game and it is set. It's more about the culture and the attitude and the behavior, right? Like to play on a high level no matter what. And they've also had some really good comebacks and whatnot. So m0nesy isn't... the rule, they're the exception, really, when you look at the top teams and the best teams in the world. And for that, it takes, a long time. I mean, Cyclone has been there. He was the coach of the academy team, 4 years ago now or something along those lines. Yeah. Some of those players were on the academy team with him. So that doesn't happen overnight. And also, no offense to m0nesy, but G2, just the stature of the org. I mean, they're a big player in almost every major esport out there. They're always aiming for, the trophies. They have a massive following. I don't think that cuts it, for their fans.
No, I mean, well, also, you just lost your two biggest attractive pieces for other players to come to your team. Players are going to have respect for mobs and Heavy God, but no one's raising their hand and saying, please God, I want to come play with Heavy God. They'd be saying that for m0nesy. They'd be saying it for niko, but you've lost that ability to track people over.
And I think m0nesy showing some struggles trying to adapt to these roles is also going to set them back, right?
Just quickly, this is the funniest thing to me. So you're right, Jason, I agree with you 100%. So how do you incentivize players to come to your team then?
Money.
So all this money, so you're not gonna. So now you're gonna end up overpaying mid talent, right? Or someone who's available because you have to get someone. You have to get, or you lose the remaining players that you have, right? So obviously even with that, it's still gonna be less than what someone like niko would command. But still, it's just so funny, right? Like you're gonna end up now overpaying people because that's what you have to do for them to even want to join your team.
Yeah.
Nice, Jason.
Well, what do you reckon? The crazy one and the one that makes the most sense from name value and everything. And Jason's gonna hate this. He's gonna hate this one.
Dexter, aren't you?
No, man. What we ain't talking about simple, none of that weak shit, Jason. We talking about the GOAT.
If you say simple, Jesus Christ, he's out playing Dota, bro. What do you want? Get your Dota player. Bring your Dota player into G2.
Jason. This could be it. This could be the moment. This could be an organization.
Is this the last moment?
This could be the moment. The organization of the stature of NaVi knocks on the door. It's G2. It's Petsa there. He's crying, tears running down his face, and he says, Sasha, you're my only hope. We need you to reignite the flame of G2. I've got you a Guatemalan. I've got your Heavy God. I'll get you whoever else you want. You can keep Hunter. We'll have a conversation about the coach and the in-game leader. That is negotiable, but simple. We need you right here, right now. Siuhy's got more MVPs than you right now. m0nesy's just reunited with niko. This donk kid's running around making everybody look like idiots. You're the only man, simple. And if you still want it, if you still got it, the time is now. Step into the mask of the samurai and become the destiny. I don't know. That was just,
that was a solid ending. Yeah, I thought you were going with the Undertaker.
Yeah. Anyway,
sure,
but it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Problem is, like, I would have been fine with it, but these last couple of things that came out,
yeah, right.
you know,
Getting
just like drunk on stream, man, and just like all this, like I'm playing more Dota than Counter-Strike. Is like, so you really just don't give a fuck. Like, you really just sort of, that's the sad thing. You really just slowly evaporated. Like, just slowly went into oblivion. Like the greatest player we've seen, you know.
Yeah.
As we all know, guys, it's tough to get out of bed and do road work at 5 a.m. when you've been sleeping in silk pajamas.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
That's the truth.
Like they got him and I don't know, Perfecto.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Perfecto's still out there in the wild. Is he just in contract hell? I would assume.
I don't know. Well, Cloud9 still have him on the bench, even though Cloud9 aren't in Counter-Strike anymore.
Yeah, but like, that's what I'm wondering. Like, is he just collecting a paycheck on the bench, and they're like, "You're actually a relatively valuable piece. We might be able to sell you for something," but he just doesn't get to play for 2 years. That's just what's happened to Perfecto.
Well, as long as he's getting that bench money, you know, someone's got to take it.
True.
But I think just to finish up on this whole m0nesy to Falcons thing, I think for Falcons, it will depend.
Is it enough?
Yeah, it will. That's what I was going to say. It will depend on how the rest of the season goes, whether they make another change in the off season. Right, and
they'll have a lot more options in the off season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I think it's a lot about, I guess, Tassis and Magus. Although I feel like Mag is going to get a full year no matter what, you know, just because of his.
Mate, what about this though, Yanko?
Well,
you got to think bigger. You got to think broader. You got to think crazier. You got to think more outside the box. FaZe look like dog shit as well. So what if by the time we get to the break, FaZe are just crumbling piece by piece, falling into the abyss, and Finn Anderson, he's got unfinished business with Niko. The two reunite, brothers in arms.
Ride.
You bring in Carrigan. Now you can make another change too. You can keep Magis.
Simple.
Right? You can keep your anchor.
Fuck you. Shut up.
but you got m0nesy, you got Niko. You keep Magis, so there's your core, and then you can bring in Carrigan in-game lead. And who else would you want?
From FaZe specifically?
Wow, it doesn't have to be.
Ooh. Let's see. Who else would you want?
Twists, maybe?
I would have said NAF, but I think with the current.
Well, you got Magis. You don't really need NAF.
Yeah, I'm thinking as well, like
Twists.
I think it's going to be.
I think
really
he's sort
hard
of
to
been
get
vocal about not playing for Falcons. I'm not sure about that though.
Yeah, but things change.
Yeah, true.
And I think it's going to be. I think it'd be really hard to get him out of Liquid. To be honest with you, I don't think Liquid.
I think you'd have I wouldn't want Twists for one simple reason, like too many voices. Then, you know, like have Carrigan, you have Niko. I think Twist, okay, he's not going to be IGL anymore. I don't think he's just the sort of a player, same like Niko, who can just be quiet and play his role. Like they've evolved as much as players where they are going to be very vocal during games, you know, and to be able to just play.
I guess Frozen could work.
Or
how about K Serrato? One more reach into the Brazilian cookie jar.
How about Kyosuke? How about that, Chad?
Yeah, look, if we're taking chances on the future,
let's just send it. Let's just get all the hot names, you know.
Donk.
But this m0nesy change probably wouldn't happen until after the major, right? Like this.
No, apparently it's rumored to be before.
Okay.
Yeah, it's rumored to be before.
So I don't expect. I am speculating that Bucharest could be the last event with m0nesy at G2 if things come to conclusion.
Imagine if they
which
play
then
each
means
other.
that. Well, guess what? G2 wasn't going to go to Melbourne, but Falcons are. So they need to get him a visa for Australia, but that could be pretty cool. Like having the debut of m0nesy in Falcons in Australia, that'd be pretty sick.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that. Yeah. But I think hope it'll be after Bucharest, because if the deal is like done, what are we waiting for, right? Like what's the point? So I hope it's sooner rather than later. And yeah, like that's what I hope for. But yeah, it's nice. I'm glad this is happening. I wanted m0nesy and Niko to reunite. We all knew it was going to happen. People are delusional, thinking that Falcons are not going to get what they want. They are going to get what they want.
Yes,
it's just taken them longer than they thought.
And I think, unfortunately, what we talked about in G2 has transpired, where they were not going to be able to keep. It would have taken I don't know what for him to be willing to remain on that team, and that's why I was talking about, they should maybe try to get Bit if they could at all, right? Someone who's m0nesy can connect with on a personal level, so there's something there for him to want to stay, even if things are not going well on a just results-based level. But I think there's plenty of things he's unhappy with G2, where it's like just he just wants out.
Yeah.
Can we
Yes,
move on
Jason?
from the childish stuff?
The childish stuff.
Yeah, we got the big boy news now.
All right.
Suihy joins Liquid on loan.
Ah.
The new in-game leader has stepped into the light, out onto the stage, taken the reins from Twist, who's passed them off. JKS has hit the bench. And
Myth is gone too.
Myther's gone as well. That's right. Myther is gone. So NaV, Twist, Ultimate, Nerds, and Suihy is your Team Liquid lineup heading into the major.
Which is, I would say, better just by in-game leadership alone. I think there's no doubt about that. Like the fact that Suihy is going to come in and he's going to get to in-game lead the team the way that I hope he wants with the pieces that he has. That's pretty exciting. I think that obviously he's proven himself. We don't know what the issues were with m0nesy, right? There's only speculation. I haven't had enough come my way to really understand why he got the boot from m0nesy or got the bench on m0nesy. There's a few things of this to unpack, right? The first one being the fact that I saw some people talking about it. Oh, why is it just on loan? I like the fact it's on loan for a few reasons. One of which, well, maybe they'll find out the reason that the whole m0nesy situation didn't work out. The other would be that you're going into the tournament break after the major, and there could be more changes in that time period. So if you're looking to be more aggressive with your changes, then yeah, you're not committed to this one completely. And if it doesn't work for both parties, then there are options for them to change some things up. So I don't mind the fact it's on loan. To be honest.
And it's less money than a full-blown buyout, and they just got out of a situation where they just got burned about paying a huge buyout to bring in a brand new IGL to try and build up a team from nothing. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons I imagine that Liquid's really kind of geared this towards a loan. Yeah, I'm with you. I like it. I mean, potential issues of Suihy aside that got him dropped out of
Which
m0nesy
we don't know what they are.
that we don't know about. I don't even know if they were issues. It could have actually just been a difference in philosophy. I think a lot of this is going to rest on, for a team that had the kind of, we've seen NaV really struggle with some role confusion, is what roles does Twist switch back into now that he's not IGLing? Are there roles going to be given up? Is he going to change spots on a map? Is he going to play more buddy system with Nerds to be kind of that second aggressive player with him? I'm interested to see how this team gears.
He can't. How can he? If Suihy is going to be in the group, right, and Nerds is definitely going to be in the group, and Ultimate is going to be in the group because he's the upper. Feels like Twist is going to take over some of the half lurk spots, right, or play opposite of NaV.
The active lurk, yeah.
Where NaV now gets his old, all of his sort of role spots positions, and then Twist is filling in the blanks sort of.
Can I just say this, because you guys have brought this up a couple times, and you just had NaV in your EPL, so that's why you guys said it. When the team was first having Justin in, Justin is the one who, NaV still had all his spots.
Yeah.
NaV wasn't doing what was required from him in those spots, so they moved him and then they gave Justin those spots.
Yeah.
So NaV may have been feeling uncomfortable, but he wasn't delivering the way he was meant to be in those positions. That's why it was changed. It wasn't like, oh, let's make NaV more uncomfortable. It was initially Justin more uncomfortable, and then NaV wasn't delivering what he had to, so then they moved things around. Just the record show, right?
Yeah.
Like let's, because you guys have mentioned it a couple times, and I've held my boys on the bench, right? I don't want to get in a conversation. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was thinking more CT side, where I know NaV has been moved around a little bit more probably than T side, and I know I'm going off of conversations with him from Pro League of where he just feels uncomfortable, and that's where I wonder, because this also ties into like when I joined as coach, the first conversation I had with Twist was he really wanted to start transitioning out of like playing anchor roles. Like in that Liquid lineup in like 2018, 2019, and 2020, and when I stepped in.
You said with Twist or with NaV?
With Twist. He wanted to step out of more, like he didn't want to anchor the A-bomb set in Mirage, for instance. He wanted to get out of these like positions where he was kind of like a turret. He wanted to be more involved.
Okay. These are the CT positions that Twist currently holds on Liquid before we've seen him play with Suihy, just so you guys are aware. Middle on Ancient, middle on Anubis, CT rotator, so the A rotator on Dust 2, Inferno, the A rotating rifler, He plays short on Mirage. He plays door, so main player on Nuke, and then he plays A main, so I think the aggressive towards pop and whatnot on Train.
And I know my sense of NaV is I don't think he should be your bomb site anchor players. He should be the supportive, player at a bomb site who's assisting and a little bit more mobile and shifting between maps or shifting between spots on the map.
I'm lost. Yanko, did he first say Twist and then just say NaV?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. I don't think NaV should be your anchor. So what I think is going to rest a lot on this is Twist going to go back and take any of his anchor positions, or is he going to play in the spots that NaV would probably want? Like I don't know where all the spots are going to go, but I think that intersection between Twist and NaV and what positions they're playing is going to be really important to see where they place these players on their CT sides.
So these are NaV's positions currently. B anchor on Ancient, so the long player.
Yeah.
He is the B anchor on Anubis. He is the B anchor on Dust 2. He is the B support player on Inferno. He is the B anchor on Mirage. He is the floor player on Nuke. I imagine he will move to Ramp now. And he is the Ivy player on Train. So he will probably get the chance to be the B player on Train because Justin was the B player on Train.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that he would take over that role, and then Suihy would become like the Ivy guy. But we also don't even know what their map pool is going to look like. That could change too.
I guess, there's so much questions going into it. I think those positions between Twist and NaV and how they fall on different maps is going to be really, really important to how this team plays.
But NaV has to be the anchor.
He has to be. Yeah.
He's in the team to be the anchor.
I don't think he has. Why does he have to be?
What?
Well, you want? Well, Twist won't go. Twist will never be an anchor again until he's 30.
Okay. Well, that's what I think. I think Twist. I think there's going to be an element of this where I feel like Twist should I think Twist. I want to see him anchor on a couple maps. I want to see him take over some of those positions because he's done so well in them.
I don't think that's going to happen, Jason.
It might not. But I tell you, I think that's going to be an area of where we might see some issues stem from this next lineup of Liquid.
I think we'll see, but I don't want to ignore what Chad mentioned about, JKS and NaV and changing positions and who did how much. I think probably more so the reason why JKS is the one that got replaced.
It has to be Justin replaced, 100%.
What?
It has to be Justin who gets replaced.
Yeah, because NaV has been on that lineup for how long, right? And he's just entrenched in Team Liquid. And you can make a case that, it was like the overall dysfunction of the team and the lineup that caused a dip in his performance too, when he's been nothing but stellar for a long time, right? It's not that he struggled for a super long time or that he doesn't have a high ceiling. It could just be a slump that could be unrelated to some of these factors. He might just have a bad sort of period, right? And I think it sucks for JKS because I was thinking in my head while I was about to say something, and it's like, I do think NaV has a slightly higher ceiling, but not by much. I think like when they're both on their A game, I don't think there's like a massive difference between the two. There's a little bit of a stylistic difference, but they share a lot of strengths, good in the clutch, smart players, take their time, pretty calm, right? They don't make too many mistakes or give their life up too easily, right? All this sort of a thing. So it's unfortunate for JKS. If anything, I think it's a great player for a lot of the other teams that's now on the market.
Justin's got to be done at tier 1, man. It's got to be over. It's over now.
Why? You think?
Well, the way G2 ended and the way this one ended, it's over. Like, he's 29 now. I see none like, name a team who's in the top 20 who would even be interested in
FaZe.
No way. For who?
Legion, I don't know. I'm just saying because I'm just saying because it's like they seem to be lacking a proper sort of anchor player. But I don't know.
No way. He's too old. He's aged out, man. It's over. Like,
I mean, if he's still playing well, it doesn't matter how old he is.
But the thing is, the whole conversation around the whole conversation with this, right? And I don't want to get too much into it because obviously I can't say things without people just being like, well, you're biased, right? And like obviously I am. It's my friend. I had the same thing with G2, so I'm not gonna go hard like I did with the G2 stuff. Like you said, it had to be NaV for the reason like he's a franchise player. Had to be had to be Justin to get replaced and NaV stay, because if they replaced Justin, they would have had to have played in the European MRQ. So, like, let's say that Justin's, I don't know, like the team wanted to keep Justin, but there was no way they could have because it wouldn't have made any sense whatsoever, right? They would have had to either play in the Asian or, no, it would have 100% been based off the way the rules work, the European MRQ. Why would you sacrifice that? And especially with what Jason, well, was it what you just said, Yanko, about the two players? Yeah, it was what you were saying about the two players. Like they're so similar in terms of what you can get out of both of them from the stats perspective and what they deliver in the server that you would take NaV, like undoubtedly, right? You wouldn't risk that. You wouldn't have that up in the air. Why would you? It doesn't make any sense. But I don't think anyone's picking Justin up now, right? Like no one's going to come out from Liquid and say anything positive about Justin for him to get picked up. Like there's no benefit to them there, right? Like it's done. It's over. That's it. And the whole angle is just going to be, he had shit stats. So look at what I just linked.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, I saw it too.
Like it doesn't matter what he did. It doesn't matter like anything in terms of what he brought for like the team's preparation or outside, because nobody knows those things. And I can't say him, because if I say him, then no one's going to believe me. They're just going to be like, oh, he's your mate, right? And nobody from Liquid's going to come out and say the positive things about him either. So it's over. That's fine. Like,
well, I mean,
it depends also what, if we want to mince words a little bit, depends on your definition of tier one. You said top 20 teams. Like he could probably target like a gamer legion at some point if something does a panic.
Come on, Jason, get the fuck off. I think if anything,
okay, guys.
I was going to say at this point, then if that's
what joins Soul.
I think if that's
okay, go back to Australia.
Yeah, if that's the case, FlyQuest is the better option for him, right? Because
100%.
Because they're a big org, he can probably get good terms from them, a good salary. He's a marquee name. He's the most accomplished and successful Australian player ever. So for them, it would be great, and they can upgrade Lias. They should do it immediately, right? Like they should just right now. But I don't know if Justin's
benched at Liquid though, right? And like the thing is, I don't know. I don't imagine Liquid are going to be kind and let him go. Right, like
not for
with
free,
what I've heard about the finances at Liquid, it doesn't sound like they're going to be nice.
If they're fucking offering 37K to Road J in 2021, like no fucking surprise.
No wonder they have financial issues, huh? I know Jason's salary when he was their coach, and he fucking took him to the cleaners, mate.
Yeah.
That's how this guy's renovating his house.
Yeah, dude, those renovations been going on for 5 years too. It's still going.
He spent the last of that money on the master bathroom.
Well,
tiled from fucking floor to ceiling, mate.
Oh, it actually is. I was gonna say, they might let him go not for free but for cheap. I don't know how the contract is structured, but I imagine he's making some percentage of his salary while he's on the bench. And
if
then
Steve has any honor, he'll let him go for free.
And then, they also have
hashtag not biased. And any honor.
I should call Steve right now and put him on and just be like, Steve, you let him go for free.
Any honor, motherfucker?
But also, they still have Yakinder on the bench. So if their contracts,
I don't care.
But if their contracts are structured in a way where they're getting a salary, like even if it's like 30% or 40% of your salary while you're on the bench, you're still paying these guys for nothing. At a certain point, you're going to be motivated to get them off your books, right? Like, so just, again, not free, but here's a fucking fire sale. Please let me stop paying this guy to do nothing.
Going to be a little bit tougher for Yakinder than for JKS, but yeah.
Probably. But look, if you could get rid of Cadian after that team collapsed, you can do anything.
Yeah, I guess.
The fact that Astralis came knocking had to have been a great day in the Liquid office building.
Well, you guys get to cover Liquid in a couple days' time, right?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Here's the final thing I'll say about the change. This is a good change. Twist was obviously not cutting the mustard as the in-game leader. I had hope based on conversations I had with him and the conviction that he had when I spoke to him that he would be able to pull this off. But obviously not up to the task, right? We saw there was really no developments in certain fields from what they were changing positions. They were trying different styles. Those things weren't landing, right? It wasn't working. The same problems persisted within the team, like losing unlosable rounds, giving up number advantage situations, losing rounds to ecos, right? That they should never have been, like they were in matches that could have been competitive, that could have been like confidence building breakthrough games for them, but they always fumbled the easy rounds. And that's essentially, you can only sustain so many of those losses up to a point where something has to give. So this change, it's a good change. Suihy's the best available option on the market right now. I think that he's going to come with a lot of zest because he's going to feel like he's got an axe to grind based on this m0nesy thing at the start of the year. So he's got a fire lit under his ass. He has a great arsenal of players, right? I think Nert's obviously in the mix with Twist and NaV. That's class. We're still yet to see consistency out of Ultimate. Some days he's hit, some days he's missed. That's the player that I think needs to adapt and evolve the most. I don't think with a player like Suihy in the team, obviously I don't know enough about him, but he feels like he has a strong will of how he wants to approach the game, and maybe that's why there was the mixing of philosophy with the rest of the team on m0nesy. But now that the coach they have in lieu of getting rid of Mytha is Jay Lee, so Damars DeRover, he's more of an analytical guy. And when I say more of an analytical guy, he is an analytical guy. He just runs the data and will go, okay, guys, we're better off doing this or better off doing that. He's not going to sit there and design the entire philosophy of how they approach the game. He's not going to be designing the defaults, all that type of stuff.
He's not really a Counter-Strike guy. He's like he's like an MIT stats guy who just kind of
data analytics cool. and all that stuff.
And he was like, oh, I can do cool things.
I think also,
so I think it's good. I think it's a nice mix.
I think you also nailed it, Chad, in the sense of they lost a good amount of games that they probably should have won against some of these top 5 teams that would have definitely given them more confidence, and we all know how important that is. I mean, go all the way back to Cologne, man, and the game for the playoffs against FaZe and that collapse, right? I mean, they only beat NaVi. I mean, NaVi was the best team in the world. They beat them 2 times at Blast Groups, and that was pretty much it. I'm sure they beat someone else at some point, but like they couldn't break through that sort of a glass ceiling that maybe would have unlocked a different level for that particular lineup. But for me, it's also, I mean, I shared your sentiment. I definitely overrated them because I was saying, I'm thinking by the time Shanghai Major comes along, they'll be a contender, and it wasn't really true. And that Spirit game is probably the best example because that is the game that they could have won if a couple of rounds went differently, right? The Don case and in the 3v4, right, on a saved AK and a niko round and on Anubis and some other things. But that's it. That's just the story for this Team Liquid lineup. It just came came short too many times, right? And I think it's also interesting. We had Device first and now Twists, like 2 marquee names who've taken up the in-game leader mantle and having to sort of give it back less than a year for Device. It was a lot shorter.
It's 2 big victories for all previous IGLs in the world who love seeing people step into those shoes and bail out, pull the ripcord real quick.
Yeah, and Cadian had that line where it's like, yeah, man, like it's easy for you to give me a call when it's like 3-3 or 4-2, but let me see you, do it when it's 11-11 and like we have like mixed money and blah 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 blah. Like that's the thing. That's like the big difference between being a secondary caller and the IGL is like, as an IGL, you have to have an idea. You have to have something for every round, right? And then if someone chimes in, maybe you sort of agree, yeah, that makes a little bit more sense. But it's your job to have it all the time, in the mid rounds, all the time. Like if everyone is quiet, you are the one who has to speak up, right?
And if you don't fucking have it, you better lie to me. And you better make me believe you have it. That's, you better be prepared to fucking bluff this shit out of your team.
I think the one thing I hope is, though, for Twist is it's not a poison chalice, right? Like, so he tried to do it. It didn't work. Look, from my perspective, Device and Twists picking up those mantles has ruined my belief in a star player ever again, saying that they're going to be an in-game leader. I will forever, for the rest of my life, be against it. And if they're successful, then I will change my tune.
You need a Nico exception.
I'm not believing it until it's done, right? You climb Everest, and then I'll say you can do it. But until then, right, you're just fucking... Because... I don't even know why I believed. I don't even know. I think I just discredited how hard being an in-game leader was. I haven't played, professionally in almost 10 years now. I must have just forgotten. I must have just forgotten how hard it was.
For me, the surprising thing was, in Twist's case, was some of the stuff that they were lacking in is usually where a star player is good at. Like their mid-rounding on T side wasn't great. Sort of pulling people in when trades happen. It's like, rounds like 4v3s and so on. Like that's usually where those players excel because they almost as if they have X-ray too. They understand where everyone's at, what's the scenario, what's the most likely thing that's going to happen, and that, and a little bit like I said numerous times, too many setups on on CT side. So that was a little bit surprising. For Device, it didn't look too hot from the start because their best map was Ancient, and what they were doing on Ancient T side is just set calls all the time, like B rushes, B contacts, A rushes, and so on. So it definitely lacked depth in that sense. But I think both of them are better players for trying it now because it just gives you
different perspective,
a different perspective on the macro and a better understanding. And I think, I'm not sure about Device, but I would like to believe that for Twist, he will get back to it, down the line. Most likely, yeah. I don't know why I left it like that because
he's only 24 or 25, right? So it's like that was one of the big qualms. He's 25. It just felt early on within the career. But I remember I had some chats with him, and he said the conviction was at an all-time high. So I don't get me talking to a cult leader. I might just start buying in, man. Like, if I talk to a Scientologist or some shit, I could be, you guys don't know, I could be me and Tom
drinking
Cruise
the
in a
Kool-Aid
couple
in
weeks
24
or some
hours.
shit.
Yeah.
Man, fucking hell. I only learned what that Kool-Aid reference was about, Jason, because I was watching this new TV show called The Studio. It's like on Apple TV, and it's with, what's
Seth
his name?
Rogen.
Seth. Yeah. And the first episode is talking about, is it Jamestown?
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently they committed suicide by drinking Kool-Aid.
By drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I only learned what that meant thanks to a TV show, guys. So they can
There
be
you
good
go.
for you. They can teach you something. All right, we done with liquid convo?
Can be done with the liquid
so,
combo,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, okay. What else is there that's happened that's big? Those are the three big ticket items that have happened in the Aurora stuff, m0nesy, liquid. There's been some other news.
You want me to just do a rapid fire and see if any of them grab your interest?
Oh, yeah, hit me.
Okay, well, starting a couple days back. All right, let's start here.
Joel got a
Joel
lifetime
handed
ban.
lifetime ban by Isik.
That's good. He
Yep.
apparently he was cheating, like cheating,
Legitimately cheating.
using hacks. Like you're a hacksaw.
Yeah, I mean, I care about that, but he was banned by the anti-cheat, so yeah.
Yeah. So it's good that he's gone. Lifetime ban for him.
Passion UA, Kane is out, TC is in.
Kind of wild, right?
Yeah.
It's an
Does
interesting
TC speak Ukrainian? We didn't know it.
Not that I know of.
I didn't get to ask Sam about it. She's here. She's tight with TC. I'll get some insight for your chat for the next episode.
Get some goss. Nice.
That would be a unique language to learn growing up in South Africa.
Yeah.
But,
Well, he's a doctor. You never know. Like,
True.
maybe he's learning it right now.
Maybe he's one of those like doctors who just has a PhD in like linguistics and speaks 7 languages.
Yeah, that could be
I wouldn't mind it. Did you guys see this drama around teams playing the Yalla Compass qualifier, but then they're not going to play the actual event because they were just playing it for points to play the MRQ?
Yeah.
Kind of sad.
I mean, it's really sad, but I can't fault them for playing by.
No.
You can't really fault the teams. This is one of those. This is another one of those learning experiences of the VRS, which you'd hope Valve is just going to have to come up with something to patch this. Like if you don't complete the event you're playing in, you lose the points.
I think
the problem
solution...
the problem is, aren't the playoffs scheduled over the MRQ?
Yeah, well, they wouldn't be able to do both.
Right. So then, I mean, that comes down to the ask where, people have been saying, which is entirely reasonable. If you're going to demand that schedules are out 2 years in advance, then your MRQ needs to be out 2 years in advance too, so we can schedule around it. You can't just drop it into the calendar 3 months away.
What do you boys think of this, though, right? Because I asked Striker what he thought the solution was yesterday, and he said, yeah, that's the one. My problem there is it makes you less flexible, because I think that these events should be LAN, right? Like, I understand and I went on my soapbox about this yesterday, so I won't get on it as big today. But essentially, I think for the smaller regions like Asia and the Americas, that the event should be LAN because we need to prop those regions up a little bit more. So Valve should help the tournament organizer to run LAN events in those locations. I don't think that the MRQs should, first of all, be online. If it is for Europe, so be it, right? And people are going to be, that's crazy. But they've already got the most representation. We already have like the best servers. We can all be worked out in Europe, right? If everyone can go to everyone can go to ENAT and boot camp there and play the thing online, and it's all good in the hood. But in Asia, the fact that we have like Eastern Asia and China and Oceania and all broken up in that fashion, then we have to include, which aren't getting included, which kind of sucks, is the Middle Eastern teams. If we just had a big LAN, like a 16-team LAN, with representation from all those regions coming together for the 5 spots, whatever the fuck it is. And that's huge for the region. It would mean so much for the region to be able to have an event like that. So I think that Valve should really make it so that Asia, at a bare minimum, has LAN event for the MRQ in the future. And I understand that's going to put a dent in the calendar, but it's a region where those teams most likely are not attending the big events anyway, because they're not going to be high enough in the rankings, right? There's less likelihood you get the overlap of those events. And then if you can do it for the Americas, I think you should too, right? I think you should, because the way that it gets divided, it's not even a number of teams split at the moment. And then how do you work out who gets more? And is that a fair way to do it? I think, and it's also good for North America. North America needs more events like that. We need to try and stimulate North America as well. So South America, I love you guys too, but you guys have a healthy scene, especially Brazil. But I think that that should happen in the future. I would like to see that as the next evolution of this.
A healthy, incestuous scene down there in Brazil, because they just love fucking each other over all the time. When is the next time? When are we ever going to get a good Brazilian team, man? We have 4 average teams, 5 average, 6 average teams. Even now, Odic qualified for what? Astana? Legacy is here, right? So some teams that you haven't seen for a while are now showing up, right? There's MIBR, there's Spain who's here, Furia's here as well. Like, it's crazy how every Brazilian team is 2 roster, not 1 roster change, 2 roster changes away from actually being like interesting in any way.
Yeah, it was either Fur or Cold Zero. One of them had the same Brazilian dream team as what we've discussed a couple of times.
No, I don't know if it was Fur.
It was one of the two. I thought you definitely said some shit about Furia, though.
That's what I thought you were bringing up. Yeah, he dumpstered him pretty fucking hard.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see the pundit scene down there grow from the ex-pros, right? Because there's quite a few of them down there, and like we know Fur's got a thing.
And they've all been pretty patient without any results coming out of Brazil, despite having some incredible players and teams through the years. So they've all been. It all feels like they've been pretty patient in holding back, and now it's like they're at the point where there's just like let the floodgates open, let it all out. To piggyback on the Yalla Compass thing, did you see this weird thing that happened to Lynn Vision within the VRS?
Yeah.
So Lynn Vision forfeit a game to give more points to Rare Atom so that they would have a higher place in the ranking, which would then give China the 2 spots for the major.
Yes.
Do I think that it's good that Lynn Vision did that? No. Do I understand why they did that? Yes. Do I think that it's important that these things get fixed by Valve going forward? Yes. Is the solution to just have everybody play together on a LAN like I just spoke about? Yes.
Yeah. Oh. And I mean, to make it a little bit more for listeners who might not have been super up to date on it, they were in a situation where if they won, they lose that Chinese spot that Chad was just talking, the extra spot, and if they lose, they probably get accused of throwing. So they just took the forfeit and highlighted the issue.
Listen, Jason, we're not here to fucking hold people's hands, right? Like, we have a Discord. That's where people can, talk and say, hey, what did they mean by this? I'm not really, up to date with this situation. And then, there's going to be someone in there. You think those are the
conversations happening on our
Discord? Then Bob Bobinski is going to come out of the woodwork after spending 6 hours on all the forums defending Shiro and saying how he is the best human to have ever lived. And come and explain it to you. Discord is a fun place, man. Jason just unbanned someone that I banned. I have to ban a couple more people. We need to give someone like mod privileges or something. Like, there's too much shit going on there. Like, every time I look into, I have to time out someone because they're calling each other donkeys and shit.
Dude, I was watching a game and I go to the watch party channel to like watch the game with some people, and there's like geopolitics going on, and I was like, all right, everybody chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
I met a guy in Lisbon who was like, oh yeah, I'm in the Discord, but I'm not Bobinski. Man, I'm not in there, so do whatever the fuck you want. Like.
No, yeah, they were that guy, I think it was Diaz, he was posting Daniel, I think he was posting like photos from the event too. It was nice. You have a little bit more of that and a little bit less of donkeying. Like, maybe Chad comes back one day. But
probably not.
I think
probably not. Doesn't look likely.
I think also this statement from the CEO of Spirit, right, talking about m0nesy and Shiro and all that stuff. Did you guys catch it? You know what I'm talking about? Or you had to go to Discord? Is that
Discord?
No, he said m0nesy is an incredible player and I'd love to work with him, but right now we have someone just as good, right? in terms of having share.
Oh yeah.
Now,
Yep.
obviously, you know, that's the CEO maybe saying good things, maybe a little bit too delusional, but it's all right. Sure, is not as good as m0nesy, but he's better at some things, and he is a player that suits this Spirit roster probably a little bit more, right? That they have, but there was a part of me, and I know we talked about this before, is like if you could get m0nesy to Spirit, right? In theory, and you just say fuck it.
Yeah.
Promote Kyosuke, have him dunk in m0nesy, like that would be kind of sick. But just for the way they play, and you know, with Dunk being as aggressive as he can be, probably someone like Shiro suits them better.
Yeah, well, I think I would say to that, you know, I think the op is just not a priority when you look at what would need to improve that team, right? Like you're going to look at Magix and Zontics before you even think the op is a situation. If m0nesy fell into your fucking lap for free, yeah, you take that any day of the fucking week.
Yeah. Well, that only happens to Vitality.
That only happens to Vitality.
Actually, and Liquid.
And Liquid.
Apparently, I missed some good interviews that happened recently. One of the things that where is it here? Scrolling. Oh, the Rivals thing upset me a little bit from Blast. That upset, like, twofold. Obviously, they are no longer doing it in Mexico, and I can get it, right? Because if you look at the flow of events, it would have been Bucharest, a lot of those teams, or some of those teams going to Australia, right, for Melbourne. Then some of those teams, not many because it's only an 8-team event, going to Mexico. And then from there, those teams having to go to Astana, right? Astana starts on the 10th of May. The Mexico event finishes on the, 4th. Finishes on the 4th of May.
Yeah, but you have to travel on the 8th. You have to be in Astana on the 8th.
Yeah, okay.
You know.
Well, that makes sense. So, yeah, okay. Well, time, it's a flat circle. Yeah. When I saw seeing that, I was like, okay, well, that sucks because it was meant to be a crowd event. And we didn't really get much of a reason of why it wasn't happening, right?
We did not. I don't think they released anything with the statement, just that it wasn't happening. And I haven't heard the same rumors as I did around like the PGL Argentina, where teams were really concerned about going Katowice, Argentina, and then back to Europe again. So I haven't heard any of those same rumors of it being like travel issues for teams.
This is what it says. Just so I'll read it so that we will hold some people's hands. Blast Rivals Monterrey update. Due to unforeseen logistical challenges, the upcoming Blast Premier Monterrey Rivals event will now take place at the Blast Studios in Copenhagen, Denmark. We remain incredibly excited about the Rivals format and are committed to delivering an unforgettable experience for players and fans alike. Does that mean they're going to do a crowd? While we won't be in Mexico this time, we look forward to returning in the near future. So if they're not going to do a crowd, then for fans, they mean the viewers at home. And it's like we had EPL as a studio event. We're about to have Bucharest now as a studio event. We had Bounty as a studio event. And the reason that this one, for me, kind of irks me up the wrong way is I am so against the fact that Valve gave them an exception to run this format. Like, this format is bullshit. This format goes against, in my mind,
the invites or the format of the event.
It's an 8-team event. How many other Tier 1 tournaments are 8-team events? None. It's 4 teams wildcard invites, right? Which is bullshit because they can essentially pick whoever they want. And this hasn't, I don't know where this is currently at, right? But I know that some digging was done because based off of the way that they do their incentive structure, it's, what was it? It was appearance fee, right? Like based off of where you're invited to a tournament with the Blast structure. We've gone over this plenty of times earlier in the year. You would receive a certain amount of money based off where you were invited, not based off where you were placed, like prize money or the club share. So the issue with this one was that the wildcard teams, the way that I was looking at it was that the wildcard teams would get the appearance fee, which was, I think it was the same for all of them, 1 to 8. I'm pretty sure. I can go and double check right now.
No, just finish your thought. Finish your thought first.
I'm pretty sure it would get 80K. And with the wildcard teams, sure, there's certain level of restrictions that you have to go through to invite these teams, right? So first of all, it was regional based, and then there has to be something to do with like how these teams are placed in a period of time, right? But essentially, within those confines, you can pick and choose whatever team you want it to be from those regions to come to your event. And the way that I read it was that those teams would receive that appearance fee, right? So that's 80K. You get to pick who you want to come out of 4 slots of an 8-team event, and you're essentially gifting them 80K. Well, I don't think these are the names that Blast would have wanted to come, so it actually makes me a little bit happier that it's paying Wildcard and FlyQuest. Obviously, Falcons there too, but they don't fall into the same category. But then when I was talking about this on Hatred TV Confirmed a while back, Lucas was like, oh, no, but the way this is worded is you have to be ranked 1 to 8. Well, I believe, and I don't know the outcome of this, right? So I don't want people to sit and take this as like full condemnation. There needs to be like someone who's an actual journalist talking to Blast and getting this out there from a public perspective, or Blast need to set the record straight. But what I had heard, or what I was told based off of some digging, asking Blast, was that no, like the teams, regardless of place 1 to 8, right? So the top 4, like everybody would get the 80K based off of what I heard. So that goes, I think that's like, that seems bad, right? Like you can pick who you want as a wildcard team within small confines, and then you give them 80 grand. Or whatever that is for the I'm pretty sure it was 81K or something along those lines.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit questionable. I will say, though, that I'm not against Valve giving them an exception for this year, because they have been in the circuit for the last 5-6 years, running tournaments and everything, and perhaps giving them that sort of a leeway, because it's difficult for TOs potentially to maneuver with the new rules and everything, and maybe some of the deals that they had in place. I don't know, but I'm fine with even that sort of an exception for this year, right? But now that if some of these things come to light and you see how it actually is for everyone else in the space, there's no need for them to be the only exception to this, right? Like they can just play under.
But the problem is, Yanko, the problem is when the initial stuff came out from Valve and it wasn't fully fleshed, Blast were the first ones to the table with their circuit. And even with the things that weren't fully fleshed out at the time, they announced this format and it didn't play by the rules, the limited rules that were available then. And this was back in like September or October of last year, maybe even a little bit earlier than that. So it's like, even with the base level rules that they had, they still made this format.
Yeah, well, what bothers me a lot more is the fact that it impacted a lot of other teams' schedule, the fact that this tournament was supposed to be in Mexico, right? So a lot of teams are like thinking, okay, if we're going to play that and we want the frequent flyers from Blast, like we're going to skip this other tournament because we don't want to have to go from Australia to Mexico to Astana pretty much, and like have all this back and forth. But now that it's in Europe, well, some teams might have responded differently. And I don't know if they've been made aware of that at the invite date, that the event was most likely going to be in Europe, which again is like different level of questionable, but also the fact that it's moving from an event that's supposed to have a crowd to now just being another studio event. It's like, well, now it's a completely different event to what it was
supposed to be.
It was supposed to be, right? And like, what are the sort of guidelines when it comes to that as well? I think that for me is a bigger issue, at least in the case of PGL. I mean, it was just a different location. The event didn't change. It was
off a clue.
Yeah, it was like group, studio, and then playoffs in the arena, right?
Yeah.
It's just, from one perspective too, on even a more basic level, it's a shitty thing for the Americas region, where 2 events scheduled to be in that side of the world have been rescheduled this year. But look, I don't want to get into political talk, but it always seems harder to get onto that side of the world. I know the major's going to be on that side of the world. Hopefully that doesn't get cancelled. Holy shit. Well, that's what also is a little confusing about this too, is like we don't even know why this was moved.
That's true.
There's not a leak. There's not a rumor. There's not just some random person on Twitter putting out the reason. There's not some like weird shady article from some random website saying anything. No one has said a word about why this is moved. So it's like, okay, maybe political, maybe who knows why, maybe teams want to, I don't even know. I have no clue why it was moved. I know it would suck if I know I saw in the thread a couple guys had like bought plane tickets and bought hotels, and now it's moved, and now they just lose out on that money, which obviously sucks, and is obviously something Blast probably didn't take lightly when they made the decision, but
I'm sure Blast will comp them
twice.
Flights and tickets to Denmark instead and hotels.
Yeah, a little studio tour. Yeah, it just sucks that in the first 3-4 months of the year we've had 2 events in the Americas that get rescheduled and pushed back to Europe. So hard time.
Yeah, I guess the thing is like we can try and investigate on our side, but it would be good to know because the one thing that we hope, I guess, for the longevity of Counter-Strike is for it not to be so European dependent. Where we're in that at the moment, we have been in that for a while. There's a lot of factors that play into this, right? And we could sit here for hours upon end talking about how we got into this scenario, but that's not really the crux of the issue. The idea is more about looking for solutions, and if we don't know what the problems are, then how are we meant to be able to find said solutions? So, it would be nice, I think, right? Was it you in the past, Jason, who brought up the idea of swings like they do in tennis?
I think that was you or Yanko.
Well, definitely someone, but the idea of like having these and that, but
all
that
the
would mean that
Americas
all the,
events be in this 2 to 3 month stretch.
yeah. I think this all there's a lot of factors that all compound into this. But yeah, it would be nice to get some transparency on it, but I don't imagine we will. So that's just the way she goes. What else we got here?
What else happened?
Well, we didn't talk about the Lisbon with the podcast you guys did. Was it after Lisbon ended?
No.
It was before.
Well, we could talk about that.
I think
we could also talk about Bucharest.
I think we could talk a little bit about Blast and then maybe a little bit more about Bucharest because I think the one we did, Jason, was before the playoffs. Or
it was, but I mean, it's also I don't have anything to say about. Yeah, go on.
Vitality won. Zaru has more MVPs. 16 series in a row now for Vitality. All of them being best of threes or best of fives. There you go.
I mean, it's just how mental is it that they won the first map 13-0, bro?
That's so crazy. In a grand final, never happened before.
You know, m0nesy is not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. I think for me as well, definitely the second best team in the world at the moment.
Yeah, they're ahead of Spirit,
sure.
but Spirit's still in the conversation. For me, it goes Vitality, the tippy top of they're on top of the Christmas tree. They're the star or the angel or whatever you want. But then next down, the favorite baubles, Spirit and m0nesy. But m0nesy are slightly higher.
Yeah, and I think also shouldn't be neglected the fact that Vitality did this like at the end of a sort of a 3-week travel
stint,
right? 3-week stint where they had to play a lot of series at EPL and managed to lift the trophy there. And now also, I mean, at Lisbon, having to beat Spirit and m0nesy back-to-back, two of the main contenders in the semi and in the final. Another great run. They were down like 2-1 in the grand final, right? Both losses being 13-11, and they still managed to win the last two maps 13-7, 13-7, and the last one on Train, where they haven't really played, on this sort of a stage, right, or anything, and managed to make it sort of look easy. So yeah, I think it is a little bit. I know who was like, you guys made a small joke about, or maybe it was like when we were doing rehearsals, Jason, but it's like, a team rising or like about having an error being dominant coincides with all their contenders struggling too, right? Which was the case a little bit with sort of Astralis and their rise. It's like, FaZe is a little bit lost. They're in trouble, right? Because, Boston happened and all that stuff. The Brazilians, SK were struggling with roster changes and whatnot. And it's sort of one coincides with the other. But I think it shows you a team that has all the correct pieces and has good leadership and everything and gets along outside of the server as well. It's going to be tough for a lot of these things. Like, how does FaZe beat them? Right? Like, which is not a bad team by any stretch. How does m0nesy beat them? I mean, they were close, sort of, but there's a long line in history about teams that were close to beating someone, right? Like, it just has, with the amount of firepower that they have, and they have good structure and good foundations and everything, right? It's just, they're absolutely the team to beat by a large margin, it feels like.
Am I out on FaZe too early? Because you just said FaZe like not a bad team by any stretch, but like I feel like I'm out on them. I don't know if this roster's like, when I say work, I mean like to FaZe caliber, like a top 3 team in the world, playing entertaining Counter-Strike, having deep runs, making grand. This is a team that's been in back-to-back major finals. Sure, they didn't win them, but they were still in them, and then they also started CS2 as the top dog. And then after Lisbon, Carrigan makes this tweet. This is a disappointment. The way we lose way too many advantage positions and rounds is insanely bad in this tournament. Basics are in the bin. Back to practice again. See you next event. Like, I don't know. The team, am I out on them too early? Should I wait until this event where we don't have the top dogs?
I think out on them in the sense of them as a title contender and as like a top 3 or 4 team in the world is a good place to be. I think for me, I'm out on them in the sense that I'm just like your top 10 team and things look really bleak at the moment. So I don't know if I'm fully out, but I don't blame you for being out. If you're
The
just
field's just weird, though, don't you think, Jason?
It
Like
is.
we have 3 teams that feel like we can trust upon, and then
top 3
after
teams
that,
keep
for
them
me-
there. It feels like Navi's
Yeah.
going to take a free fall down the rankings. To me,
Well, they haven't. It hasn't been a big adjustment at the moment. Like for me, it goes Vitality, Spirit. It goes Vitality, Spirit, Mouse, Eternal Fire, Mongols.
Yeah.
Like that's how it goes for me.
It's because these teams have been beating the likes of, FaZe got eliminated from Katowice by Eternal Fire, for the playoff spot. I think there's some losses in there from FaZe, which are concerning for, because this is the tough part. This is the trap, right? Because you're saying, I'm going to say, okay, they lose to Eternal Fire, who's a good team at the moment. They lose to maybe even Virtus Pro, who played a lot better in Lisbon than they did before. They lose to Astralis in the 3rd place decider, so how much was their heart really in it? But that's the thing. If FaZe is going to be FaZe, they need to be winning these games, right? Like, I don't have a problem with them losing to Vitality, or even when they lose to Spirit, although it wasn't super competitive. Like, that's the bigger problem. But there you're like, okay, a contender losing to a contender, not so big of a deal, right? But losing to some of these other teams, it's like, if you're really FaZe, like, these are the games you take care of. These are the games that you win, even though it's ugly, right? And the fact that they're unable to do that, that's the part that's concerning, right? And some of the messaging that's coming out of the camp and the being uncomfortable and everything. So I know someone mentioned that anyone who's moved homes, is willing to give Elige sort of a 1 event off and FaZe 1 event off, especially moving continents. So that's okay. But this is the one then. This has to be the one.
and the field is weaker.
Exactly. Like that.
give him to the major.
I know,
He's going to be in that team.
No,
to the
but
major.
I'm saying that what the problem is, Jason. The same thing with Liquid with this last roster. It's like if you just never get that win, right, to give you the confidence. If you never have that one result, how are you supposed to keep believing? Like, it's very difficult, right? It takes really, really a lot and to dig deep. And sure, they've been together, some of those players, for a long time, and the core of the team has been together for a long time. They've had these sort of ups and downs, but it's been a lot of downs, man. Outside of the Shanghai Major, look at the last 9 months, right, for FaZe Clan.
That's fair.
It hasn't
That's a
been
fair
anywhere,
point.
and that can wear on you, right? And then you make a roster change, and all these teams are having a honeymoon period. You don't even get that, right? It takes a toll. So I think it has to be. This one has to be for FaZe. Like, they have to do I don't know what, like, be at the minimum top 4. They have to take someone down, like, who's right there with them, a contender. They probably need more. They probably need a final at least, right?
I feel like FaZe has got to be the hardest team to GM right now. With the state that they're in, the situation they're in, I feel like they're a really tough team to GM and figure out a way past this, like, quagmire they found themselves in of bad results, lackluster eye test, names coming in and feeling uncomfortable. Everything feels off with FaZe at the moment. And I don't know what the solution is. I don't know how you would look at that as someone as a GM and say, how do I fix this? Do I drop
Carrigan to Falcons. That's how they fix it.
And Bit to Falcons, and that's it.
Oh, there you go. We'll take Bit as well. Let's go.
Bit, m0nesy, niko, what did he say? Carrigan,
Magis.
and Magis.
Yep.
That ain't bad.
That's pretty good.
That sounds
I'd
pretty
say.
good. Yeah.
Sounds pretty good. Let's make that happen. Well, all right. Do you want to talk a bit about Bucharest and then wrap it up?
Yeah.
Let's chat about Bucharest.
Okay, so for our audio-only listeners, they're our favorite listeners. They always have been and always will be. Mongols, Aurora, G2, Aurora, aka Eternal Fire, G2, FaZe, Falcons, 3D Max, Virtus Pro, Astralis, Liquid, Gamer Legion, Pain, Furia, Complexity, Rare Atom, Apogee, and Legacy. Those are the teams in attendance.
Apogee being a upstart Polish squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Jacob in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. We've seen some of these names before, like Demo we've seen before.
Didn't know Pimp was Polish, but yeah.
I think we've seen this.
Which one?
Huh?
Nothing. Go on.
Format, it's 1.25 million. We have 16 teams. It's Swiss best of 3, 8-team playoff bracket on the Sunday. Third place, best of 3 decider, best of 5 grand final. So that's the studio event in Bucharest in PGL Studio.
No days
doing
off,
something special?
start to finish.
Are they doing something special with the teams, like once it gets to the playoffs? Do you guys know?
In terms of, I don't think so. In terms of what?
I just meant the playing area, that's all.
No, I don't think so.
They're switching it up a little bit, but it's still just
they're
studio. Yeah, just the layout is going to be a little bit different.
They're gonna have one of the V's. not completely facing each other, but one of those slanted Vs.
Oh,
for the camera
okay. No,
shot.
but in the past, it's just kind of been like booths, right?
Yeah,
And
they have him in the booths for the group stage, and then for the
Yeah.
playoffs, they'll move it around.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice. That's a nice
I
adjustment.
think
Yeah, take that.
obviously for this tournament with no Spirit, Mouse, and Vitality, right? It gives an opportunity for everyone else. Now we get to see who's the best of the rest, in a sense, right? And I think for some of these lineups, it's definitely. I don't know if
Make or break?
I don't know if other teams can still make a roster change, right? Like if that's still available to them, like if things go south here, because obviously this event doesn't count for the major cutoff, right? So the points are not on the line. That's all set. No results.
They did fix that, right? Because there are
Yeah,
like,
yeah, they
technically
fixed it from
2 days of
Katowice.
this
Yes,
event.
yes.
Okay, yeah.
That's fixed. So it's
When you say you don't know if they can, do you mean like within the rules?
no, not within the rules, but like if they can make
What's available?
Yeah, what's available, or if a change makes sense, or do you just sort of have to eat it until the major is over? But for example, Aurora and the Mongols, can they finally lift a trophy? One of those two teams, right? FaZe as well.
That would be who I'm hoping to win.
FaZe as well, with you lost to Vitality at some tournament, the Spirit at another, right? Neither of those teams is here. Like, well, they also lost to VP and Astralis, who are at this tournament. But yeah, likes of Liquid, new roster, right? We get a first look. G2 and Falcons probably going to be a little bit weird with the rumor m0nesy going to Falcons. Would be hilarious if they actually had to play each other. We have 3 Brazilian teams who are not going to make the playoffs, even with this weak field, but they're probably going to knock each other out and then lose to 3D Max for the last playoff spot, or to Gamer Legion. So yeah, I think it's interesting. Complexity managed to qualify for this one. That was huge for them.
They're on a big winning streak at the moment, Complexity. I know it's online tier 2 Counter-Strike, but still.
Got to start
They
somewhere,
have
baby.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games in a row
Oh, that ain't bad.
Yeah,
with a 13-0 in there.
we get to
We
see
take this.
Dumao and Lato again, right?
Yanko's boys.
You love Doom out.
Who-
You
who-
never stop bringing
Bro,
him up.
it's so crazy how they were like the big thing for them. The breakout was making the Stockholm Major 2021, and they've been on the same
That's so long
team
ago.
for almost 4 years now. Like, I would have expected them to make a leap forward like 3
I know,
years ago.
without the improvement across those years, you'd think like somewhere a bell would go off and be like, something needs to change.
You know what's crazy, though? Dumao's only 21. Lato is only 22.
Yeah.
And then the two more, like obviously Lux came in. He was part of Pain. He's only 22. It's a very young team. Average age of 22.3.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a very young team.
Yeah.
I think.
That's the one Dead's involved in, right? Is Legacy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our boy.
Our boy Ricardo.
So outside of, so we got the main field, right? We've got the 2 national rosters at the tippy top, the Mongols and Aurora. Outside of that, G2, who potentially could be going under literally a team-shattering roster change. FaZe, Falcons, they're your next string of international teams. Then you've got 3D Max, Virtus.pro. I'm not going to bring Astralis into the conversation. Even though they're ranked 12th, they're not ranked 12th in my mind. They don't play comprehensive Counter-Strike. I think that they're off of their past results, right? Virtus.pro and 3D Max are interesting to me.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to see VP starting to get some attitude about them.
Chad? Chad?
Yes, I'm getting convinced.
What's happening?
Coming back to the VP train.
Jason?
I'm here.
How about you,
Ah, dude.
Jason?
I liked what I saw last time I seen him
Oh,
play.
boy.
I'm excited to see him here at this event.
Oh my God. Is it
Anytime you
happening?
get Electronic up on his feet shouting shit across the room, I'm signing up for that fucking show.
The problem, though, was their T-Side Ancient, which did make me hate everything about them, again, for a moment. I don't want to see them play like such little bitch asses on that map again, like not fighting for mid control, not going for B lane, just sitting outside the doors the whole time. They did it in multiple games. It wasn't just one match. It was like, okay, is this just the way you guys don't actually know how to play Ancient on meta at the moment? Like, you're not going to change the meta.
I hate seeing that because they have a team of such not bitch ass players. Like,
Yes.
all of these players at various points have felt like the badasses on their like Fame and Flit in that major win run were fucking sharp, on point, aggressive, and I don't want to see the sit back and fucking rest on your heels for a minute.
They beat FaZe like 13-0, right? Which is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those Carrigan suffered in his career. I don't think it could be many. So that's a huge victory for them as well. Their map pool, they don't play Nuke, which is fine. I think there's a lot of good Nuke teams at the moment. That's something we don't need to see them picking up. It's surprising their Mirage isn't great. They play Rare Adam in the first game. It's
Yeah.
Can you lose to Rare Adam? How bad can things start?
I don't think so.
It's
I
a
think
best
they're
of 3. I don't think so.
I think they're pretty good at the moment. Like they're piecing it all together, right? They have good individuals on the team, so I think they should be fine in that game. But yeah, I'm interested to see them firsthand.
Yeah.
I just like this event because I do like the fact that the top 4 teams are missing. I would have actually liked to have seen NaVi at this event, but top 4 teams gone. Let's see who's the best of everyone else. Like no one's touching Vitality. m0nesy and Spirit, I think for this field are pretty close to untouchable. Maybe not untouchable, but they're gonna win a shit ton of games against this field. I would like to see NaVi in the mix, but let's figure out if that ranking system that Chad, because I agree with yours. It's like those 3 teams, and then Mongols and Aurora are now like the next 2, and then it's the field. So I like seeing this battle of the rest of the field. Who's the next team looking like they're making the biggest improvements and the biggest step forward?
I agree with your sentiment about having NaVi there because it would really expose how bad things are for NaVi if they were to go in this field and then struggle again. Like that would because obviously the teams that if you look to who they've lost to this year, it's Spirit a couple of times, and that's okay. Like you were saying before, Yanka, with the FaZe comparison, it's fine. Like that's okay, right? You're losing to another top dog, but again, it's about how competitive it was. So these are the teams that they've lost to this year: Spirit in Bounty. They lost to Spirit in Katowice. Both of those were 2-0 games, but still, that's Spirit. They lost to Mongols in EPL. All right, studio event. Mongols are a good team.
They lost to SAW at EPL as well.
That's true. Yeah, but...
Let's not count that one.
But for me, it's more, Chad, like some of those games were not competitive. Actually, a good number of them was not That's the problem. It's not no shame in losing to these teams, but they weren't even putting up a fight.
I think mostly
they got blown out by EF, and they'd never lost to EF before.
Yeah. I think mostly losing and being eliminated by Spirit has hidden, like I think how bad they actually look. When they play. I think this NaVi. That's why I said I think NaVi's going to hit a free fall. I think this team is unraveling. I mentioned it on the Duncan episode. My feeling around NaVi right now is like. We can look back. We should be looking back on last year and like appreciating how incredible it was they had that kind of a year with this team, because this year to me feels like this is coming back to the norm of like you don't have the pieces to be hyper competitive for an entire year.
It's where the conversation started.
Yeah, and it feels like now we've got, like you amazed us for a year. But now this is back to reality a little bit.
And they went through 2 little peaks, right? One was, they're amazing team. Counter-Strike wins them the major. They win the major by winning less rounds than they lost. Oh my God, this is crazy. But they played really good team Counter-Strike. You can't fuck with that. Then they went in a bit of a lull. And then it came back and it was like, wow, JL's having a massive game.
Yeah.
Bits turned to have a massive game. Oh, look at Emma's now playing well. And every map you turn to, someone was popping off or a new duo was getting it done. And now it doesn't even feel like you're getting the crazy team play because... And they say all the stuff coming out in the comms, right? It doesn't paint a fair picture. I can't argue with that. That's their angle. They can say what they want. But you look at the way that it looks within the team. It looks a bit fiery, and then you see that the team Counter-Strike's not there, and the individuals aren't delivering. It's like, they've lost a lot of what was making them good.
You had that taste of success, and something weird happens when you get there, because on the path to success, when shit goes down in a game that's bad, it's like, all right, boys, it's all good. Shit happens. Let's focus up on the nuts, move on. Now, when you've had that taste of success and won that major and been the best team of the entire year, when that shit happens in game, you're usually pointing a finger. You're like, why didn't you do this? Or, I didn't have that flash, or that's not where we rotate in this scenario. You do get a little bit more pointy of the finger when you feel like that success that you had last year is so close, but you're not finding it in the same way. I think they've hit that point where some of the egos have gotten big enough, not to be like completely overblown and cause massive issues, but to the point now where there is a little bit of, why did you do it this way? Or, like a little bit of blame going around.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just
I think we're done.
For a team that's not even at the event, but good talk.
Well, we like them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
My main favorite.
Saying nice things, but we
my
like
main
them.
favorite for this event is the Mongols.
Okay.
They haven't broken through that glass ceiling though. Aurora or the Mongols. So it's hard for me to put... I would like this to be the event where one of the two do that.
Yeah.
Right? That would be what I would really like to see. Them in this field with the type of Counter-Strike these two teams can play, breaking through. That's what I want to see. But because I want to see that, it probably won't happen. So it's going to be someone else. It's probably going to be fucking G2
Furia.
on the...
I wouldn't predict him, but I'm with Yanko. I want Mongols to win. I don't know if I would point a finger and say this team is going to win it, but my heart would like to see the Mongols win.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Counter-Strike world is probably aligned there.
Yeah.
If they've gotten their dust too a little bit better, and that.
What do you mean? They like coming back from 9-3. That's 10-2 score lines. That's their favorite thing to do. Here's one that we didn't consider, though, because G2 are obviously going to be mentally hamstrung by the idea that m0nesy is leaving or could be leaving. Falcons also going to have the inverse of the problem with Dexter knowing he's not in the team anymore. Or, well, yeah, he has to be the replacement, right? So Falcons and G2 will both be affected by that news. I want to put like money on a 3D Max / VP deep run, like a top 4 for one of those two.
Okay.
When I say I want to put money, I don't bet. So what I mean by that is,
You want to put
I want to say
friendly $5 bet on it.
no money, Jason. The bills that keep coming in left, right, and center. Provisional tax. All right. Fucking bills.
Yeah, I'll take VP over 3D Max though.
I just paid my taxes last week. If it makes you feel any better, it sucks.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? We love it. Okay, well,
All right.
boys, we got much more to say.
No, I'm all good. I'm gravy.
Yeah.
Trying to think if I got anything fun going on.
Under on the number of times we fuck up Eternal Fire and Aurora on day 1.
6.
I don't know. I think it's fine to call them Eternal Fire every now and again. Anyway, I'll let you off the hook.
It's fresh.
Remind the people where they came from.
No, it's just like it's one of those things. We went G2 when niko went to G2. When niko went to Falcons, I'm pretty sure like I was saying that wrong in the beginning. Or there was definitely some players where I was doing that in the early days. It was like, oh well, fuck it. You know, like it's a big change. It's going to take a while to get used to.
It will.
It's going to take a while to get used to.
All right, cool boys.
Let's get out of here.
Thanks everyone.
I'll go get my PC.
Arrivederci.
Peace.